Okay, so we're back. In the first video, we showed why teaching presence is important and how determinative it is to student achievement, right? Um, and then we discussed another piece of it, which was the way in which the techniques that you may have developed to create teaching presence in the face-to-face classroom, some of those disappear when you go online. And it's not that you can't create teaching presence in an online course. It's just that the mechanisms for doing it look a little bit different. And you're going to have to approach it with a level of intentionality that maybe you didn't have to approach it in your face-to-face class, right? Where you have many, many years of experience in building that sort of presence. So let's take a look at the methods that you can use to develop teaching presence in online courses. So let's start with this point. Some people think I'm down on synchronous video, and I'm really not. Synchronous video has a lot of possibilities as an instructional modality. But it's on how you use it and how you use it intentionally. I think one of the things that has happened with at least some instructors as they have moved online is because they're used to creating teaching presence in this very synchronous way in the classroom, they assume that the best way to create teaching presence in the online environment is going to be to replicate that synchronous live experience. When I say synchronous, I'm talking about something that's delivered live, right? With the students, everybody's in the same moment, watching the same thing, same time as it's delivered, right? Synchronous versus asynchronous, which means delivered in a way that can be accessed at many different times, right? And synchronous video can help build teaching presence if used intentionally and used in ways that are really targeted at that. But it's not always the best way to do it, right? There's many other options that you can avail yourself of online. So one of the things that I'm trying to get folks to do in watching this presentation is think of some other ways that they can build teaching presence in their classroom. And then, the things that you still need the synchronous online to do, use the synchronous online to do it. But figure out some other methodologies first. So let's look at this. This is a video that a person I know online put together for one of her classes. It's an intro video, and I'm going to see if we can cue that up and share it with you. I'm using some very basic recording software here, so let me see if this works. Okay, so I've queued up a video from Michelle Pacansky-Brock that she created for a class that she directed. And what I want you to think about as we watch this video is just the way in which she is using this video to really intentionally create that teaching presence, especially around these issues that we outlined in terms of her connections with the students, her willingness to work with them towards success, her own personality in terms of her excitement, her own experience with the material, self-disclosure, all the stuff we talked about in section 1 and how intentionally it's done here. So I'm going to just play bits of it, but I think you'll see.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Humanizing Online Teaching and Learning. I'm Michelle Pacansky-Brock, and I'm so happy to have you here. You are going to be part of a learning experience the next 4 weeks that was born many, many, many years ago. I started teaching online in 2003, and it wasn't very good, and I knew it. I did not like how disconnected I felt from my students, and over time I really tried to improve that by experimenting with different tools and such. This is way back before Facebook. This is way back before YouTube. That's how long ago this was. And at the time, creating a video was a very arduous process. You had to know a lot about video, and when you did make a video, it was really hard for students on the other end to access it.
So right there in the very beginning, you see a couple things. Even if you don't pay attention to what she's saying, she's in a personal space. It's set up in a way that she intends to express a little bit of her personality. But she also starts with why she's interested in the subject. She starts with a bit of self-disclosure that this was difficult for her in the beginning. And so she understands the difficulties of approaching it. She understands what it's like to be new to this arena, and she is using this video to really zero in on those specific things that create teaching presence. And if you saw the stuff we went through, right, it's not just a dry, this is what the course is going to be about. It's really intentional in the way that it's making those connections. Let's look at a little more of the video here.
Called Building an Online Community with Social Media. And then I taught a smaller version of this class at CSU Channel Islands, and now we're offering it here at Without1 at this new 4-week course. And I'm just so excited to have it put together and for you to be a part of it. You will be experimenting a lot in this class. For some of you, it'll make you feel more uncomfortable than others. But I just want you to know that we're all in this together, and I want you to push yourself to try new things. You're not going to break anything, I promise. And if you get really frustrated, then I want you to stop and reach out to me. But I think you're going to find that you're going to be able to accomplish things that you never thought you'd be able to accomplish. And for that reason, I'm thrilled to be a part of this with you. You can do it, and let's get started.
So again, look at what we're signaling here. We're signaling a willingness to help. She's explaining to students, if it seems a little difficult at times, that doesn't mean you don't belong here, right? That's just the way it's gonna be, and you'll meet the challenges together, right? This is a partnership, right? You're trying to create that sense of student belonging, because of course one of the big struggles students have, both in face-to-face and online, is this issue of coming to believe they don't belong in the class. They're struggling. Everyone else must have it easy. They don't belong, and they give up. And here she's telling a story that is, yeah, it will be hard, but we'll work through it together, and you're going to, in the end, I think you're going to prevail, right? So that is, that's what I'm trying to communicate here, is that you could try to do all your teaching presence through synchronous online video and Zooming and talking and all this way, but a well-designed intro video that sort of sets the tone of the class, where you really intentionally hit all of these different sorts of elements that you need to hit in teaching presence. In 2 minutes, you've done what might take hours in another format. And that's one of the things we'll see a couple times here, is one of the benefits of online is that with prepared media pieces, you can often be really targeted, really intentional with what you're trying to do with them, that can make them more effective than some of the more synchronous elements that we're falling back on. Let's look at some more examples here. So we can look at, there are modes that are not video, of course, and we'll talk about some of them. One is you can set up an introductions forum. So in this case, you have students introduce themselves, tell a bit about their background, why they're taking the course, maybe have them share a link to something that reflects their personality or their interests. Have them reply to other students as well. And this is the one place where you don't have to, you can set your students' expectations on how much you'll reply to them in forums. It can be, you can be a person that replies to every post, or you can be a person that replies, to every third or fourth post. But in this case, you probably want to reply to every single one, right? Because this is you reaching out at the beginning of the course. The other thing is, once you have this introductions forum, it's a forum, you can go back and read it. It can be a resource later as you're trying to figure out who these students are. And if you have a student that's struggling, maybe in this forum, maybe they've introduced some context that will help you figure out why they might be struggling, and ultimately help you assist them. We'll look at another module, an intro check-in here. Let me check this here. So this is also Michelle. I think Michelle is just really good at creating this sort of experience for students. This is for a different course than the one that we just looked at. But you can see here again, this is a module intro. She's doing a check-in, and she's talking about some of the questions that students have brought up in the forums, some of the things that they've maybe struggled with. And she's also this is a course where there's some students from around the country. She's also just signaling, hey, I know a little bit about the snow closures and things like that going on. So let's take a quick look, and I'll disappear myself here.
Hi everyone, just checking in with you today on this.
Let's get that volume up a bit.
Day that is very cold and stormy throughout most of our state here in California and on the Northeast also. Hope you're all warm and dry. Thank you for all of your wonderful comments in the meet and greet this week. It's been great to get to know you a little bit better. I've really enjoyed that. And I also found many of your comments to be very inspirational. Many of you talked about your reasons for being in this class and specifically cited your interest in improving your students' experiences and building relationships with them. So you're in the right place, and that is a great feeling. I also wanted to just say that you should be very proud of yourselves because many of you cited in your participant info form that you're really nervous and uncomfortable in front of video. I know it feels weird to talk to a webcam, so be proud of yourself for trying something new and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. So that's it for now. I hope that you have a great rest of this week.
So again, as we look at this, you see here she's got the sort of the portrait mode. It's just something that's filmed at home on a camera. And it's not always important what that quality is. It's nice to have decent lighting. It's nice to have a high-res camera. I feel bad. I've paused her here in this horrible position. There we go. That's better. But it's more important what you say. It's more important, how you communicate. And in this case, again, if you think about who you would want your child to have as a teacher, if you have children or nieces or nephews, or who you would have wanted to have had as a teacher during your own college experience, I think you can see that she is projecting the qualities here that you would want, right? And again, she's doing it really through she's doing it through these asynchronous modes in which she creates teacher presence. Again, not everything has to be multimedia. Just one thing that you want to do, really no matter what course you're teaching, you want to set up weekly announcements. And even if you feel you told the students already, even if you feel you told them twice already, just each week, here's what's due, here's where you'll find it, here's how to do it. Maybe a link to the materials that they need and where they can reach out for any help. And this will save you a lot of effort, actually. This is something that saves you time because the student each week wants to know, hey, what do I have to do? Where is it? Whatever. You put this out, and then you're not fielding emails about I can't find this or that. It went out in the weekly announcement. And so there are some things here that take extra time, but there are also some things that if you do them will, in the end, save you time and provide your students with a better experience as well. Help forums are a common technique that people use. You can set them up so that students can help students and you can jump in when needed. You can offer extra credit if you want for students that engage with help forums in a way, or sometimes the credit doesn't have to be points, right? If you, in your follow-ups, like these video follow-ups that we're seeing Michelle do here, if you in your follow-ups just call out a student or two that really helped out on the forum and say, hey, I'd like to think, I'd like to thank Kim for stepping in and helping people with the issue they hit in the forums. Thank you, Kim, for doing that. It's much appreciated. That sort of recognition in one of these updates can be incentive for students to go out of their way to help their other students, to build that peer-to-peer connection. And that's part of what we're talking about when we say that it's teaching presence that catalyzes social presence and cognitive presence, right? What we're talking about is it's the way you model that as a teacher that is ultimately going to matter. By the way, you saw one thing just happened to be here. You heard the little blip, that I have a meeting coming up in a moment. And that's going to happen. I'm just going to leave that in here because I want to really stress that being professional in some ways, like work on your lighting, try to make sure they can see your face, try to create an environment to the extent you can that feels warm, to the extent you can, right? Sometimes there's going to be laundry in the background, and that's just the way it is. Don't worry about that, but try to project, the warmth you can, and then don't worry so much. You're not creating a professional piece, right? You're just trying to bring you. Annotations is another thing that I've been interested in recently. One of the things students want is they want you in the course, and one of your options is if you give them a reading, you can make web annotations on it. And you don't have to have the students read them if they don't want to, but you can say, hey, if you want to see my notes on it, I'll share my notes on it. And look something like this, right? Where you go through the reading and just here and there find a couple places where you can add a comment. Really create that sense with the students that you're right alongside them, right? That you're kind of helping draw their attention to important parts of a text, important terms, things like that, right? They're not out there reading this text alone, right? If they want your gloss on it, they can get your gloss. And then finally, synchronous or video chat, you got to use it sometimes, right? You don't always have to use video. A lot of people have underutilized chat. You can just use the chat function in Zoom if you want. Tell everybody, we're not going to do video. We're just going to use it for chat. You can use the chat function in other products if that's better for you. But just be aware of some of the constraints. And in particular, I want to mention that when you force students to be visible in Zoom, it appears to reduce people's concentration. It appears to reduce their concentration, their ability to concentrate, because they are spending so much time thinking about the fact that people are looking at them, that they aren't listening to what you say. They aren't processing it. And so they're doing worse in your class. So please, 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 I know you think you want feedback from the students to understand if they're getting it, but if you have the students put up their webcams, especially when they're not speaking, consider the amount of mental energy they are spending thinking about whether they look attentive rather than simply being attentive to your webinar. And is that worth it to you, right? Is that trade-off worth it to you? There's also real issues with equity around some students have home environments that they can webcam in from. Some people don't. Some people are living in very small, crowded spaces in which forcing the students to webcam is a bit of an invasion of their privacy, or may force them to reveal things that are embarrassing to them about their home life, right? Or things they just don't want to divulge about their home life. It may not even be the case that it's embarrassing. And then this final point, I just can't emphasize it enough. The students are there for you, right? You're why they're here. If the students thought that they could get this by just reading stuff and doing the work, they would be at a different university. They'd be going to like Western Governors or something like that. So make sure you put yourself in the course, right? Really make yourself visible in the course. Really make sure that course feels like a course that you inhabit, right? And that you take care of, that you we used to have this phrase in the web that you garden, right? That you're kind of paying attention to, that you're attentive to. And ultimately, I think if you do that, you'll find that your students have a better experience, right? And they learn more. And ultimately, that's what we want to accomplish. So thanks for listening to these 2 videos. And I'm always happy to answer questions for anybody, through email or any other method. So get in contact with me if you need to.